Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to the light bulb at the top of the tower. I'm Kirk Harnack. Chris Tobin is in studio with me today, and we're right now we're at the Broadcasters General Store studio. Glad that they were able to accommodate us and be here. We got a couple things to show here. We're talking about all the stuff at the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters Convention for 2019. So we're in Las Vegas, Nevada. I got here last week on Wednesday and was helping the Telos Alliance get all their stuff set up. Chris, when did you get to town?
I arrived Wednesday. The PREC, or Public Radio Engineering Conference, where I attended, and then we had the award dinner on Friday for Jeff Welton, which was fun. The Weltons.
Yep.
Hello, my name is Welton. Jeff Welton. Just remember that. Those of you on the inside know what I'm talking about. You'll find out more in another episode. That's all I'm going to say.
So for this episode of This Week in Radio Tech, because of the timing, the show actually closes at the exact time that This Week in Radio Tech normally happens. And this is the first year that we've kind of got messed over that way. So there's really not a great way for us to do the show live. So what we're doing, Chris and I are going around to some of the cool technologies that we have seen while we're here at the show, and we're interviewing the developers of those technologies, the inventors, people who use it. And so we're going to take a look at the technologies that we're interested in and we think you might be interested in too. Chris, what's a highlight or two that we're going to see in the show coming up?
Software-defined radio device. That's one of them. Another one is the latest in monitor and control, using something, what was the ability to use just a GUI to create circuits and sequences inside your remote control, which was pretty cool.
We're also going to look at FM multiplex over IP at under 400 kilobits per second. So hey, on your DSL circuit, you could fit 3 or 4 of these with no problem. So all that's coming up on This Week in Radio Tech.
This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store, with outstanding service, savings, and support online at bgs.cc. By the Ruby console from Lawo. See Lawo in your future at lawo.com/TWiRT. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by the Calrec Type R console system. Type R is a brand new, modular, expandable IP-based radio system from Calrec Audio.
This Week in Radio Tech, on location, NAB 2019. I'm your host, Chris Tobin, along with Jim Gray. And Jim, I'll let you do the introduction of yourself, company, and what we're about to talk about.
Well, my name is Jim Gray. I'm the CEO of Modulation Arts, also known as Optimized Media Group. And what we're showing on the floor today is a looking glass. So this is an RF test tool that has some pretty significant implications, not only for engineering, but for sales and management and programming. So this is kind of a whole station approach to new technology.
You say new technology. What is the technology behind this, or what's under the hood?
Top secret. No, not really. We're really open with this. It's really just a really powerful, customized computer that has a very special SDR built into it that has also been customized to meet our needs. So what this thing can do is it can see the entire FM spectrum at once, not tuned to it, but the entire spectrum at once. And in fact, the demo that we have going on here is using the Las Vegas market. So this is a device that's installed in Beasley here in town, and I'm looking at the entire FM band plus a little bit extra on the sides, which is really interesting considering here in Las Vegas we have a couple Franken FMs that we found over here down in the 87s. But no, I'm seeing everything at once. This isn't scanning, this isn't individual tuning, this is the whole band all at one time. So we can look at that with a holistic approach. Or I can dive deep into a single station like this and show you that I'm decoding all of the RDS data, the TS and PS and AH and all that sort of stuff, the injection level that is on the receive side. So why does my RDS not work? Well, you don't have enough on the receive end. Information like MPX power, modulation, and this is true analog modulation. This isn't just a calculation of what it is with the HDs. You can see this station that I'm picking on right here is an HD station, but I'm only grabbing just the analog portion to be able to show you actual analog modulation. Stereo pilot injection level, demodulated audio. This is good. This is your LKFS loudness monitoring. So how does the perceived loudness of your station look? Band scope here, so this shows you your station plus the third adjacents in either direction, and this will show you your occupied space and if anybody's encroaching on you or how you stand up against everybody else. This oscilloscope that's built into here isn't just for pretty colors. This is actually a useful test tool. This is real, a real oscilloscope, I'd like to say. So we've put this on a bench up against NIST traceable gear, and I'm within 0.0012% of being equivalent to a NIST traceable oscilloscope. So, and for the old timers out there, I say that as kind of one of them, I can adjust the phosphor persistence on this, and I can see the base wave that we're modulating from, which is not something that's easily done on a current digital screen, trying to imitate phosphor. Over on this side, this is the FFT monitor. So here's the entire station here. I'm looking at the multiplex, but I can just look at the left demodulation or the right demodulation, left or right de-emphasized stuff. I can say, what does it look like if I drop my subcarriers off? Or how's my pilot protection? So let's drop the pilot out and see how well that's being protected. Or I can look at the pilot alone and see if I'm modulating the pilot. And any of these things you need better scale on, you just tap on them, you open them up, and you can see everything that's there. We can graph other things like the loudness. So if you want to see your loudness over long term or momentary loudness information, that's all there. RTA graphing, things like that. So there's lots of different options that are built on into this guy. But I'm just showing you one station. But I said I'm looking at the whole band, right?
Yes.
So why don't we just give you all that same information on the entire band? So here's everybody's RDS data in town, everybody's signal-to-noise ratio, MPX power, loudness data, modulation, any of those other things that I was showing that we can see. I can also then compare that side by side. But so now I can take a look at this and say, how does my station stand up in terms of modulation or loudness, which is really, I think that's probably the key goal here. So how does my station sound in loudness and modulation? And I have all this RDS data. Now, not only are we demodulating the entire band, we're also recording it. We're recording the RF, not the audio, not through a codec. I'm actually recording the INQ position of all of the waves into this 14 terabyte hard drive that's stored inside of this guy. So inside of that data, I have a historical piece of this for about 5.5 days. So if you get a listener complaint that says, hey, last Tuesday I couldn't listen to All Things Considered, well, guess what? You can now go back in time and see what the RF in the air was at the time and try and figure out what that problem was. All right? But with RDS, I'm actually pulling 30 days worth of that data. I'm storing 30 days worth of RDS data that is downloadable as a CSV file. So in one click of a button, I will show you the entire playlist and program clock of every station in your market. So you're talking about business purposes here. So the uses for engineering, I think, is pretty obvious. However, think about this from the programmer's perspective. I want to see how my station looks and sounds compared to everybody else. I want to get competitive information about the market. I want to be able to sell my RDS space. There's a lot of places are doing that. How are you doing proofs and affidavits with those things? Nobody's really logging that really well right now. I have a log for all of that. Or turn this around to sales. I run this report and I will show you everybody in the market that's buying RDS space. Go get your salespeople on those people, right? So there's implications for sales and other things like that too. We can even compare individual pieces side by side with your competitors if you really wanted to. So let this build up here, and what you're going to see is any of these things that we're measuring, I can compare two stations side by side in loudness, or in this case this is an RTA, however you want to do this. You can also use this for trying to match your processing or your processing product to your competitors, or finding ways of standing out against your competitors, finding that line between modulation and loudness, with the different products that are out there. So again, this tool has a lot of implications. Lastly, think about your consultants. So everybody at your station can have a copy of the remote software. So one goes to the engineer, one goes to management, one goes to programming, and then you send a copy of this off to your consultant. Your consultant from their desk across the world could sit there, tap into this, and not only listen to your station, give you information and feedback on that, but they can also check out the rest of the market and determine how well you stand up against those things. So it's a useful tool for your consultant, for your management, for your salespeople, for the programming, for your listeners, really, at the end of the day. So it's got a lot of implications in a business sense.
So if I hear you correctly and understand what I see, if I'm a group owner, I can purchase, for each of my markets, one of these boxes. Yeah. It is a box that sits in a rack. We're just looking at the user interface here. Right. So I could actually look at the market, and all of my departments can log in and say, hey, here's what's happening. We get feedback, and we can make changes if we have to. This also I can see from an investment, if I just purchased one mod monitor or two, I only get a third of what's going on. This gives me more than ever the information. In the past, the oscilloscope alone, I remember taking detector outputs of a tuner to put that and get that same frame. Now I can see even more. This makes total sense. So the return on investment, total cost of ownership, how does the general manager, the group owners look at this and go, interesting, but...
It's interesting. The experience that I've had on the floor here is this, quite often the engineers stop by first because we see all this data and they're like, oh, wow, this is a great, powerful tool. Let me go get my management. They come back over here a couple hours later and I give them the demo, and then they start to put this together of, wait a minute, this doesn't necessarily have to come out of my engineering budget. This is something that is really a tool for everybody at the station. And you're right, any one of these pieces could almost justify the entire price. To be able to do this would take actually 3 scopes at once to be able to get this data. So if you add up what it would cost for all of these tools, minus the fact that I'm recording all of this, which is nobody's recording RF out there, right? But if you were to add up all of these tools, you're at around $50,000 or $60,000 already. All right. The most expensive thing I can throw at you is about $23,000, $24,000-ish. So, take any one of those things, and oh, by the way, I can also record. And oh, by the way, I'm doing this times 30. We have 30 presets that we can offer you here. There's a smaller package that gives you just 10. So if you're in a small market, or if you're really only concerned with yourself and maybe just a couple competitors, we have a smaller piece that's less expensive that really just looks at 10. You can still see the whole band, but you're really just focusing on 10 pieces.
Okay, well that makes total sense, and I think when I first saw this introduced, what was it, last year? Yes. You and Alex were working on it. I'm like, okay, I see potential. And then it became a hardware device. I'm like, okay, this is even better.
The hardware device is the key here. There are other things that are out there that can pick this up. This is based on Leif Claeson's MPX tool software at its core that we have worked with Leif and built this up. That is the key. The software versions of it that are out there are dependent on hardware and what SDR you plug into it and the type of antenna and the environmentals. This is locked down in your rack. This is sealed from RF. This is predictable hardware. That's why I can give you this much accurate information.
Excellent. Well, you can see in the display that's exactly what happens. Well, live from NAB 2019, This Week in Radio Tech with Jim Gray and Looking Glass, the product. Be sure to contact the folks at Broadcasters General Store for the purchasing of this. And by the way, from what I'm told, there's only 6 left in stock, so you might want to try something soon. I'm only kidding. But anyway, seriously, look at this. It takes a few moments to get an idea of what you're actually getting and what's going on, and then you realize the light goes off, and the rest is just up to you deciding which part of the system you want to take advantage of. Jim, thank you very much as always. Appreciate it. Chris Tobin from This Week in Radio Tech, NAB 2019, sorry.
Calrec Type R is a modular, expandable IP-based radio system featuring 3 slimline panels, a fader panel, a large soft panel, and a small soft panel easily configured to give the operator full control. Layouts are saved and recalled quickly between shows. A single 2RU core with integrated I/O gets customers up and running fast, and that single core can power up to 3 independent mixing environments with no sharing of DSP resources. Available in 4 DSP packs, and as your station grows, larger packs can be added, enabling it to grow with you. Power to the surface is supplied via standard PoE switches, keeping cabling to a minimum. Type R is fully AES67 compatible, as defined by SMPTE 2110, which means that it is also compliant with NMOS discovery and connection management specs. All these features combined make Type R the most flexible radio console you can buy. Find out more at calrec.com/TWiRT.
Calrec, known around the world for audio consoles, and now in the U.S. With their Type R. calrec.com/TWiRT. Hey, studio guests are only human, you know, and humans cough and they sniff and they clear their throats, even on the air. You can cure this with the Angry Audio Guest Gizmo. Press the cough button, mute the mic. Every guest needs one. You know what else guests need? They need headphones, which is why each guest gizmo also has a studio quality headphone app with individual volume control. Anything else? Well, you've seen those mic arms with the built-in LED tallies. They're gorgeous. But how do you light them up? Well, the guest gizmo does that too, illuminating the red light whenever the mic is hot. Installing the guest gizmo in your studio furniture could not be easier. You just need one of those, a 2 3/4 inch hole saw and a steady hand. You don't need a router. Your studio gets a clean, custom appearance, and you get all the credit. Check out the guest gizmo and all the other cool gadgets at angryaudio.com. angryaudio.com.
Chris Tobin here with This Week in Radio Tech with Jeff Schick and Sprite Media. And I'm going to let him introduce himself even further and give us some details about the product you're going to see, which is a stretch clock. I'm not going to tell you anything more about the stretch clock. Think of that phrase.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me. We're back with Broadcasters General Store. We are Sprite Media. We do digital signage. And our new product for this year is the Sprite Stretch Clock with alerts. So last year we had the stretch clock here, and folks were saying, can you add an on-air sign to it? Can you add some alerts to it? So I even have a little test box here to show that it actually does work. It's got a lot of interest because it's bright. It's 700 nits. It's 2.5 times brighter than a normal TV. The format is 1920 by 540, so it doesn't look like a regular TV. I actually got the idea when I was at a train station. I thought this would make a great clock to put over a DJ. Plus all the information is out there right in front of you. What's kind of a neat thing is if you have a sponsored studio, you hear that all the time, you know, the Main Street Bank studio, not only can you say that, you can put that on the top of the screen there or whatever message you'd like. We put the screen together for you, which is a little unique. Our whole thing is customization. So you give us your logos, you give us even your colors. We did a screen like this with the moving background, made it orange and blue because that's what the station wanted. There was a station that wanted a picture of the football stadium. We did that as well. So we do all the photoshopping and customization because, as you know, there's a bunch of clocks out there right now, and that's what makes us different. We set it up. When you okay it, we ship it to you so it's ready to go right out of the box. Also, a different thing that we do is that we don't use a Raspberry Pi or a project computer. This is a digital signage media player. It's a high-end graphics machine. There's one over there, and I have another one over here. So it's meant to be a digital sign. It's meant to last 10 years at least, and this is the same player that you'd see in stadiums and very high-end projects. So over the years of Sprite Media, this is the most reliable box we have out there, and between the screen and the player, you should have many years of it working well for you. Also in the box, we'll get to that. The box has 7 closures. These are dry closures. So this is the one that's new for this year for the alert. So once you hit that, you can put anything you want on it. We also have the Sprite command screen. We can show you where that is, which I have it on an iPad today. And of course, I'll need to put in the code. You can put this on a computer or your phone, and you can take a look at this. And we give you an option of 5 backgrounds, 5 fonts, 5 logos, plus you can type in like the message, you can type in the alerts here. You just hit enter on that and it goes right to the screen. So you don't need to know any programming. I've seen a lot of folks buy digital sign screens that have very complex programming. So that is the Sprite Stretch Clock with alerts. We also do a more traditional digital signage. I have a welcome screen here for a lobby to welcome your guests. Same kind of thing. You get a Sprite command screen. You can have a person just easily type in who your guests are. It's got NTP time just like the other device, so it's accurate to the second. And we just make it super easy for you to use. And we have more information on our website at sprite-media.com.
So basically what we have here is digital signage for the broadcaster, and remember, it's all about how do you engage your audience, attract them properly, generate revenue. And here's a first start, here and here. So thanks again to Jeff Schick with Sprite Media, This Week in Radio Tech. Jeff, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
This is Chris Tobin for This Week in Radio Tech. This Week in Radio Tech with Chris Tobin, that's me, and Hank Landsberg. Now, everybody knows Hank, well, actually, you probably know more of his products. Henry Engineering, I know for many years, many of our audience members have used the products, never even thought twice about it. Now we have a chance to actually see the man and find out more about the sportscast that we talk about all the time on the show, and actually find out more details that we probably are aware of. Hank, thank you very much for the time and making room for us.
Thanks very much for having me. The Sportscaster is our new product this year, and what it does is it provides a complete integrated audio control system for doing video coverage of sporting events. And this is pretty common especially with colleges, high schools, and even middle schools who have now really gotten into pretty serious video production. When you do play-by-play audio of a football game or basketball game, you know, it takes a whole team of guys, or guys and gals. You have play-by-play announcers, the talent, but you also have usually a sideline reporter down on the field. You have a camera crew running the cameras, and you have a producer or a director who is calling the shots and kind of running the show. And the most critical part of this operation is communication between all the different members of the broadcast team, much more so than if you're just doing radio only. So what we have here is a system that utilizes the sports pods, which have been out for about 6 or 7 years. The sports pods are the announcer stations. These are the little mini consoles that the play-by-play announcers use to control their mic. They can turn the mic on and off. They have a cough button. And this is what they use to do their headphone mix and volume control. They can mix program and intercom audio in their headphones as they want it to be. But the big, the most important button here is the talkback button, and that's used to create a full-on intercom system with all the rest of the broadcast team. When the sports pods are used with the sportscaster, we have 3 distinct functions that all work together. We have the audio mixing section here, which basically just mixes the mics, and that's pretty simple. And, you know, any mic mixer could do that. But the hard part is everybody on the broadcast team needs headphone audio, and they all need to hear something a little bit different. So the play-by-play announcers, they can set up their mix on the sports pods. Over here we have 3 knobs that set up the headphone mix for the sideline reporter down on the field and the camera operators. And over here on the right side, this is where the producer plugs in his headphones and talkback mic. And this is where the producer sets up his headphone mix, so he can set it up the way he wants it. And right in the middle, these are the important buttons. This is the intercom control. This allows the producer to selectively talk to the talent calling the game, or talk to the sideline reporter down on the field, or talk to the camera operators. And in addition, the talent can talk to each other. The talent can talk to the sideline reporter if they need to coordinate inserting a sideline report from the field. And of course, the producer can talk to anybody. So in addition to just keeping the play-by-play going, the sportscaster creates all of the intercom channels so that everybody can communicate and coordinate without interrupting the play-by-play. So that's a long answer to a short question.
No, that's great. Actually, I've done a lot of sports coverage and broadcasts, and I can attest to this simplicity is much easier than having 6 different boxes on the table and trying to remember for the producer, no, that's your sideline, no, that's the talent, no, that's so-and-so, that's camera, that's, you know, whatever. And this, I love it. Just press the button, and off we go. This is unbelievable. This is actually more compact than I realized.
Yeah, it's really simple, and again, it's being used a lot by schools, colleges, high schools, middle schools. You know, and those are folks who are just kind of learning the ropes, learning the business. So the idea here was to integrate everything into one box, into one place, so that it's easy to use and quick and easy to install. So that's what Sportscaster is all about, and it's shipping now.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Hank Landsberg. This Week in Radio Tech, I'm Chris Tobin, and you can get his products at Broadcasters General Store. And remember, we all know the stuff, and then there's other boxes that he's had we've all used over the years, but for those of you that do support of a high school, university sports, check into this. This is probably the best way to go compared to all those other little boxes you're using. Again, This Week in Radio Tech, I'm Chris Tobin.
Scott Feibush here at Wheatstone at NAB. And one of the attractions of the booth is one of the masters of the VoxPro cadence here. We got the VoxPro 7.
Yeah,
this
the
year.
new VoxPro 7.
What is new? What's exciting?
So many new features. We got a built-in, like a mini processor. You can adjust EQs, de-essing, almost like a mini production studio. You know, you want to jack up the levels if you got of a low caller. Also, we got the gap buster, where instead of sitting here on the VoxPro, if you're an advanced VoxPro person, instead of sitting there and editing out all the silence and stuff, basically hit 2 buttons and all of that is done for you.
Just gone.
Yeah, it's all about the shortcuts this year. Also, they built FX macros, which is basically a shortcut button that you establish at the top of your file. And instead of sitting there for 2.5 minutes during a song editing, you know, all the ins and outs of the phone call, you can hit 2 or 3 buttons and in real time, doing it in about 20% of the time.
So this is what we're going to see you demonstrating here.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, last year we went into the hotkey portion, and we can get a little bit more advanced and stuff like that. But there's just so much more stuff that is coming out with the VoxPro 7 here at NAB 2017.
I'm going to stand back and watch you do your magic.
All right.
Thanks a lot to Broadcaster General Store, where you can get VoxPro from Wheatstone and all your other stuff that you need for your radio station. You know, my friends at Broadcaster General Store have been building their business for literally decades. The Shute family got things going. The Kirstens are involved now, and it's a big family operation, and it's a friendly place. Key to what they do there is they've been building their internal systems for years with custom software that lets them, as a dealer, keep track of all their vendors' products, the current pricing, the current descriptions, current availability, and I've never experienced anything like it. You call, you order something, they are very good at being able to tell you when it's going to arrive, keeping track of it for you, letting you know if it's going to be late, if it's going to be early, and it's just always had such a great time dealing with Broadcaster General Store. Look them up on the web at bgs.cc, bgs.cc, or give them a call. Keep this number in your phone. It's just terrific. 352-622-7700. 352-622-7700, and call my friends there at Broadcasters General Store.
This week in Radio Tech, I'm Chris Tobin, along with Jacob from Tieline. We're going to talk about some of the newest features of the Via, and rather than me try and tell you something about a product I don't deal with, have Jacob do it for you.
Hello, Chris. Thank you guys so much for having me. So, Chris, the new Via here, it's not new. It's been out in the market for a few years now, but we've added a lot of new enhancements. The newest thing we've added this year is a brand new hardware module. You see these 4 antennas back here? Mm-hmm. These 4 antennas, it's 2 cell radios in one. That means AT&T and Verizon, right in the card, 2 SIM cards slide right in. Before the Via offered 5 native IPs, that was 2 Ethernet ports, dual USBs, as well as built-in Wi-Fi, so you don't need USB dongles for that. It's all right in there. But now we've added this dual card, so instead of 5, now you have optional up to 7 IP network interfaces. What this allows the end user to do, the people out in the field, is you have a couple of options. You can bond all 7 of the interfaces together to have a higher bandwidth throughput back to the studio. Or we can stream up to 5 redundant streams. That's a primary plus 4 redundants back to the studio. Then the studio unit will handpick which audio packets to listen to and drop into its buffer pool to play out. So that's going to provide a much more rock solid connection back to the studio in real time. So
essentially, the return on investment is the fact you got 2 cell modems in your box.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to worry about figuring out how to plug in a USB, ULM, Pantech, or anything else. You just simply go, 2 SIMs, I'm done. I have redundancy, maybe, like you say, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, whomever. Yeah. You pop in the card and go.
Exactly.
Wow, that is cool. And the fact that you can bond them all together, even better.
Exactly.
So this is nice. It's not very lightweight, too. It's very, very lightweight.
Yeah.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Now, the other cool thing with the Via is the Via is not only just your basic codec. It has a 10-band EQ for each channel. It has a dynamic range compressor for each channel as well. They can all be independent of one another. Then on top of all of that, we have this little SD card back here. It's a portable recorder. So those coaches interviews, any commercials, station IDs, all of that stuff, you can load it right into the codec and play them now from the field. On top of all of that, we added an FTP client into the unit, so you can take those pre-recorded interviews that you did in advance, send them back to the studio for them to edit or use in post-production. And then on top of all of that, we went an extra step. We put an FTP server in it. So now you can send data back to the SD card. So once they're done editing it back at the studio, they can push that interview right back here, and you can play it from the field when you're ready. So now it's all a small little handheld recorder, codec, little bit of processing, not a lot, but just enough to get you through that remote and make it sound a little bit cleaner, all right in one small little form factor.
Well, excellent. That's a remote studio in a box.
It is,
essentially.
Yes.
Wow, that sure is handy, because I just did a broadcast recently where we had more than one piece of equipment to do all those features.
Yes.
So that's very handy. I like that.
Now you can try it all out in one single small little form factor, so you don't need an 8-foot table. Just get a small little bar stool table.
Sure.
And that's all you need to get your remote on the air.
Wow, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Jacob.
Yeah.
And
if you don't mind, may I grab that? I'd just like to tell the audience out here, if you want more information, you can contact me at sales@tieline.com or reach out to my good friends Kirk or Chris, and they know how to reach me as well. And thank you guys so much for having me on your show.
Well, thank you again for making the time. This is Jacob with Tieline. I'm Chris Tobin with This Week in Radio Tech, and now we'll go back to another episode somewhere else.
Hey, we're at the booth of Bohn Broadcast, Services.
Yes.
I'm Kirk Harnack along with Josh Bohn. Hi, Josh.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
So you've been on This Week in Radio Tech before talking about this Max Connect technology.
Yes.
And tell us what it is, and then I'm going to describe how we actually used it last night and got great results.
Max Connect is a prioritized LTE service that I've spent years negotiating with carriers to get. It took me a while to get them to admit that it even existed. But we finally got it working. We got the bugs worked out of it, and this is the service that you need to cut through the clutter if you're in a congested environment, if you've got a lot of people, like a convention center perhaps.
Yeah.
And major sporting events, we have customers that have been using it for Alabama Game Day for a few years. We've got NFL teams that use it in the NFL stadiums whenever no one else's phones work. I used it at the Regions Tradition Golf Tournament in Birmingham.
Yeah.
One tower that I had one cluster on one side of me, one cluster on the other side. One tried to use an AT&T jetpack. It had no signal. The other tried to use a Verizon modem. It had signal, but when they tried to connect, it wouldn't connect. And I plugged in my Max Connect modem, hit connect, did 2-hour broadcast, and the little guy with the Verizon card came over and looked at me like this. How did you do that? I said, who were you talking to? My chief engineer? Have him call me. Okay. And I sold him 7 the next day.
Oh my gosh, oh my. You know, when I first experienced this was actually years ago, like on the order of 14, 15 years ago. I was in Miami setting up for a Latin convention, a Latin Broadcasters Convention, and I had some kind of a data modem hooked up to the first edition of the Telos Zephyr IP.
Yes.
And when I set up that night, it worked fine. Now, the next morning, when all the people came into Miami for their jobs,
Yes.
I had signal, but I had almost no data whatsoever. And that's the trouble, that's the battle we've been fighting for years and years. You try to do a broadcast from a football game, any place where people are going to be, and your available data just diminishes when a lot of people start using their phones.
Well, and people misinterpret the fact that they have signal on their phones,
Right.
that, oh, well, I should have data, but
Right.
the pipe is so squeezed. It's like I compare it to a water line a lot of times. You can only shove so much water through that pipe. Well, in our pipe, in the LTE pipe, the pipe is segmented. So you have a large segment that is the consumer grade data, but then you have smaller segments that only have a few users in them, and that's where the prioritization lives. So we've got lots of throughput up there because there's only maybe a handful of people in that area of the spectrum that's trying to use it, whereas everyone's cell phone is down fighting for data in the public chaos. Yeah.
So your data modems look like off-the-shelf cradle point style modems, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So your secret sauce, though, is the service that you've prearranged
Yes.
and negotiated, and then you're reselling the service to broadcasters.
Correct. Yes, we are what the carriers would refer to as a branded reseller. We don't operate any of the network equipment. We're simply selling selling a segment of Verizon and AT&T service. And we've arranged all that. We have deals in place. It's very stable. We've been doing it now for about 5 years. Our subscriber database is constantly growing. There's no magic in the hardware. I've probably said that 50 times this week. There's no magic in the hardware. We can sell you a pre-configured router, or we can sell you a SIM card and give you the information on how to program it.
So last night at the SBE spring membership meeting, we wanted to cast that live. We've been using Google Hangouts on air, streaming that to YouTube. We're going to be making a change pretty soon on that, but the point is we had to get the data out of there. Now, before the meeting started, I tested my T-Mobile connection, which oftentimes Chris Tobin and I doing this very show, the TWiRT show, we have used either my T-Mobile phone as a hotspot or his Verizon phone as a hotspot, and we've generally had pretty good luck. And last night, I tested my T-Mobile data rate up and down, 40 megs down, 15 megs up. I thought, why did I even bother with Josh? I don't need that. So we actually tried doing a 2-camera setup. And we had one camera on your Max Connect, and it was reporting 10 megs up and down. T-Mobile was reporting a lot higher data rate, but when we went to actually use it, my T-Mobile for video was virtually unusable. Like one new frame every 2 seconds. It was bad. However, yours looked perfect. It was HD quality. It was just beautiful. And that's the prioritization you're talking about, right?
That's the prioritization. We have one deployed at BSW TV. They've been doing their broadcast all week. And they called me probably about 2 months ago and said, we heard about your service. We want to try to use this to get our video broadcast out of the convention. Will it work? I said, yeah, I'm pretty confident it will. I said, okay, can you send it to us and let us try it? So I sent it, and the guy that was trying it called me up, and he was all wigged out. Oh, the ping times are too slow. And I said, where are you? I'm in Miami Beach. I'm like, I don't care about Miami Beach. I said, I know it works at the convention center. I said, and you're doing video. I said, where are you pinging? And he told me some site. I said, okay, I know it'll work. They got it. They tested it on Sunday. He called me again. The ping times are still slow. I said, I'm streaming from this camera, full HD video, out through one Max Connect on Verizon, hitting the tower, hitting the public internet, coming back in on another Max Connect on AT&T, and showing it in full HD. I said, it's been running for 5 hours and it's working fine. I said, try it and let me know. I stopped over Monday afternoon and walked over, and the product manager went, they've been using it all week. They've had no hiccups doing full HD video from the convention center for BSW TV.
So all I had to do last night at the SBE meeting was plug this into power and plug my computer into LAN. It was set up for DHCP, which I guess you could set it for that or not, either way. And within about a minute and a half, I was getting perfectly good data. Now, engineers can use this at a transmitter site.
Yes.
You could use it for remotes.
Yes.
What are a couple other situations? Backup at the studio.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are what you just named are the 3 primary uses that we get inquiries about. We work a lot with Burke. Our product integrates seamlessly with Burke. They have one in their booth providing connectivity to another one in our booth, and also I have one connected to my Burke at my transmitter site in North Alabama. And that's how we're, on our display screens here, we've been showing custom views connected to an Arc Plus in our booth, an Arc Plus in Burke's booth, and the Arc Plus at my station in Decatur. And they're all connected via Max Connect, and I've been controlling and turning things on and off, and it's all refreshing immediately. Remotes, I've got multiple users that, call me regularly to say that we have had, a 100% success rate with our remotes since we switched to your service. I've got one user that's actually up your way that said, our remote success rate for our club broadcasts was around 65%. And they would go out, they would have, 4 to 5 second dropouts. And then he heard about this from another user and called me up and said, I want 2. I said, okay. He said, if I don't like them, what can I do? I said, if you don't like them, call me, pay the bill for that month and send them back. There's no contract, there's no big time commitment. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But he got it and called me up within 2 weeks and said, this is awesome. And he's been telling people in his company about it, so we've been able to make some more sales within his company. And, you know, failover at the studio is another thing, because, you know, especially since a lot of radio stations and TV stations and just businesses in general are switching over to SIP for their phone service. Well, if your internet service goes down,
phones are down.
Your phones are down. And, you know, it's one thing if you can't play on YouTube, but it's another thing if you can't answer the phone, especially in a radio station. If your phones are down, you're dead in the water. So, you know, I've got a few clients that have this as a backup at the studio, and the only thing they have on it are their phones and either a backup IP for their STL, because if they're using fiber as an STL and you've got the water company working on the street and you've got backhoe fade, this gives you an option to get you back on the air.
We just did an interview with Frank Foti about this micro MPX. Perfect for that. It's 400 kilobits per second. Obviously, just a sippy data rate, just a slow data rate.
It's been operating in the Stereo Tool booth, bringing micro MPX in from Amsterdam.
So obviously this works.
Absolutely.
Hey, we got to go. Josh, this has been great. It's prioritized data, so you know if you've had bad luck with a regular cradle point, with a regular account, don't let that be indicative of what Max Connect will give you.
Absolutely. The cradle points, as I've said, there's no magic in the hardware. You can use cradle point PepWave. You can use a UML 290 modem. Anything that will support a custom APN, because that's one of the things that we have, is we have custom APNs with the carriers. As long as you can change that, you're good to go. Gotcha. But any off-the-shelf hardware, you know, if you buy it from us, we'll pre-configure it for you. If you would prefer to provide it yourself, or if you already have some, we can just send you a SIM card and the instructions on how to program it. We're extremely flexible, because my goal was to simplify this for broadcasters so that you could get the connectivity you need without having to argue with the big guys of, well, we can't do that, or no, this is going to be this, or you've got to sign a 3-year commitment, or whatever. Like I said, if you get it, it's not for you. There's no hard feelings.
The website looks like Max Connect Wireless.
MaxConnectWireless.com, 2 X's and a K. So, or you can go to BohnBroadcast.com and find it there too.
BOHN
BOHNBroadcast.com.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Josh.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Absolutely.
I'm Kirk Harnack at NAB 2019.
This week in Radio Tech, Chris Tobin. I'm here with Gary Luhrman from Inovonics, as you can see. We're going to talk about the Sofia 568. It's a FM HD site stream monitor, I guess a site streamer plus monitor. I can tell you that the folks at NPR were happy with it. From the Public Radio Engineering Conference I attended, they talked a lot about it, and you can actually observe it from an iPhone. But I'll let Gary talk about all the more details.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so some of our viewers may be familiar with the Site Streamer product that we have. This is a new family of products. It's called the Sofia, and it's a Site Streamer Plus. Basically, it's a site streamer with a lot more horsepower in it, and it solves a few problems that broadcasters have been looking for. One of which is to display the artist experience on the web interface. So it allows them to ensure that that their artist experience, album art, whatnot, that's going out on the HD channel is being displayed properly on the radios out there from listeners. Another thing that it also has streaming. It'll stream 10 listeners can monitor that simultaneously. Our other site streamer can allow one person to, which was fine, except sometimes it would be a problem if you have more than one listener that wanted to listen to it. Well, they'd get bumped. So now up to 10 people can listen to this to monitor it. Other things, it gives an awful lot of statistics about what's going out on your HD channel, and it also has some outputs. We've added audio over IP output on this, so you can listen to this anywhere in the world. It's using the Dante AES 67. It also has analog outputs and digital AES outputs. So it's got a lot more horsepower. They don't like me to say this, but it's like a super site streamer. But it's basically called a Site Streamer Plus.
Well, from what I've seen and heard about it over the last several days, I totally agree. And more horsepower definitely offers more features. And we can see from the GUI behind us, there's plenty of information for a broadcaster, for anyone who's using this, to find out the information on their signal, including HD, not just analog FM. That's correct. All right. Well, again, thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate the time for making with us. This week in Radio Tech, Chris Tobin. So long. This week in Radio Tech, I'm Chris Tobin in the Davicom booth with Louis Charles. Davicom is a division of ComLab, and we're going to be talking about the newest products. I'll let Louis Charles talk about the latest one and all the features and benefits of monitoring control system you can take advantage of with Davicom.
Thank you, Chris. So yeah, Chris, here, so now we have a remote control that is fully compatible with HTML5, so you can now have your browser, so you can now access it with your mobile phone, your tablet, your computer, or even your Mac computer too. On the hardware side, okay, so we did some changes on the Cortex 360. If you want to turn it around, okay. So on the front, you have the OLED screen. You can easily control and see what's going on on the LED. Here we have one that is actually online, and you can change the IP address in front of the screen. At the back, we have the very first unit that has a video output at the back of the RTU, so you can connect a touch screen and or a monitor and connect a USB mouse and a keyboard at the back of the unit, so you can easily control. So when you arrive on site and you want to get status of what's going on, showing this screen and do some controls, you can do it right away. And you have redundant power supply. So this is one of the only remote control that we have redundant power supply. And we have a non-board Ethernet switch and a USB hub. So we wanted to get the user a one-time purchase, so he gets everything on board, so that he doesn't have to purchase extra things and extra accessories to attach to the box. And the inside, though, if we open the cap, so we really take care of details. So it's not a simple Raspberry Pi that is controlling everything in there. So we have here the processor board. So we wanted to give a long longevity to these boxes. So you have the whole motherboard, and here you have the processor board. So we wanted to allow the user, if in the future we give some features that are too demanding for the box itself. So we want to keep the design and just change the processor board. So that's why we built this. We built it this way, and it's full EMC proof. So we tested everything so that we can, so that the unit can survive under an electric field of up to 10 volts per meter. Okay. On the software side, so you have here the default GUI that you have. So you can design pretty much anything you want. You can go from tabs to tabs. So this is another design GUI. So you can customize basically anything with the GUI. It's just a drag and drop thing. So if I want to grab a meter, I just have to click there and bring it to my workspace and animate it with either an analog input or a status input or anything else that is within the logic. Something really important to know is that our Davicom is completely configurable without any line of codes. So it's really simple to configure anything. You go into the config tab, you have two tabs here, and it's all parameters that you have just to fill in there in order to program anything within the Davicom. We have one of the most powerful SNMP manager, so we can go up to 1024 get, 1024 sets, and 1024 traps. So, and I was calculating this, and we can manage, a single Cortex can manage up to 5,000 channels in a single box, because we can reach up to 256 status, 256 metering, and 256 relays on the same box. So that's one of the most powerful remote control we've made so far. We added a lot of logic. We also, so here we have the breakout board. So this is where you can interface all your IOs. And this here is an SNMP power bar. So we've done an app, if I can get it to my phone. So we also have an app, so you can have easy access of all the things that are located at your site. You can have a map of all of your network showing the status of each site. And then you can go and custom log and easily control this power bar. So if I just connect back my network here, and I'm sorry I didn't plan this, so here I will connect, and then I can easily turn on this light using my phone. So I can go into command just by a swipe command, set active, and then it turns on. So that's all doable with my phone. Here, or I can either use my phone to connect to this screen here, so if I want to configure the box, I can easily take my phone. So if I'm on the road, for example, going to a site that has a problem, and I have another site that is being, so that I have to take care of, so I just have to take my phone, dial into the site if I have this IP connection, and then do the things I have to do in order to secure this site, and then take care of the main site I'm going to fix the problem.
So my takeaway from this little demonstration is, one, it's a single solution in a box for many needs at a site. It also offers access from my smartphone from anywhere in the world. So I could be in Tahiti enjoying a little drink and still check on my site. This is good. And also I see that I know in past, we working with other monitoring control systems, that sometimes setting up what we see here as the graphic can be a little cumbersome. Yours is just basically click on an icon, graphic, move it around after you've preset
Double click to do some
the text and get everything in place.
You can have some hyperlinks between tabs.
Right.
You also have, that's something I forgot to mention, you also have 2 firmwares in the box. So that's really important, because when you do an update, you don't want to break the unit if something happens during the firmware update. So we can revert back to the older firmware, so that you can save the unit and revert everything, so it will save the configuration, save everything that you've built for so long in another firmware version. So you can play with this and hopefully never break the unit.
Right. Which seems to be standard these days in a lot of DSP upgrading and firmware changes. So, with that all in mind, we've seen what it takes. One thing I have to make mention of, which I think is pretty cool for me anyway, is the EMC testing that you verified is done on-site by your EMC lab.
Exactly.
So Davicom has their own EMC lab. Right? For those of you who don't know what that is, you'll have to look it up. I'm not going to sit here and explain it. But trust me, it's pretty cool when you research it, the fact they have their own in-house. And if they have to have it certified independently, which sometimes does occur, at least you know that it left your place meeting the standards, and if it goes somewhere else, they find something else different, you can argue in a nice, intelligent way. But because of that EMC testing and requirements, there's certain things that come along with that for any manufacturer, but we'll talk about Davicom. And that is, they go to great lengths to make sure their products can survive, or otherwise known as survivability. And if you were at the Dext breakfast the other day here at NAB, you would know what I'm talking about. This is a was it the D320? Was this the D20?
This is the DV Micro.
The DV Micro. Thank you. So you might recognize the front panel. This is the new Burn version cover, but it's only available in limited edition. But in any case, this unit, when plugged in, does power up and boot up properly. This was in a fire in a radio station in Texas. I won't give any details, but if you go to the website, I'm sure there's some information on the decks and you'll know more. Just to say, the reason it survived is because of the EMC concept and the IP, was that 65, would it be? IP65 enclosure testing. If you open up the enclosure, you'd find there's RF shielding and gaskets and all kinds of stuff. Exactly. Notice it wasn't a fire. Notice the connectors are still in great shape. It's interesting. And it does boot up, and it does work. So the reason I point this out is if you have a manufacturer who's going to great lengths to do this stuff internally, you have to think that the products they're trying to put forward are the same. So give it a try, give it a check, see, contact your, your local broadcast retailer, whatever you want to call it, and find out more about the Davicom, or call them direct, ask for Louis Charles. And if you really want to have some fun, ask for him and then ask him to explain some other details he didn't go about today. Just the special Easter egg stuff. So, this week in Radio Tech, I'm Chris Tobin with Louis Charles at Davicom, a division of ComLab, here at NAB 2019.
There has probably never been a better time in history to buy a new radio mixing console. Today's consoles are more sophisticated than ever, with more features and functions than you can shake a stick at. But have you noticed how complicated they are? There's a sea of knobs and switches and displays and buttons. Some of them look like you might need a pilot's license to do your show. Well, a board doesn't have to be complicated to be powerful. Just look at the new Ruby mixing surface from Lawo. The first thing you notice is how smooth and streamlined it is. Ruby has lots of cool tech, but what it doesn't have is that confusing ocean of buttons that clutter things up. Now, we all know that there are some console features the jock only uses once in a while. So why dedicate controls to them? Ruby fixes this problem by moving those once-in-a-blue-moon controls to a touch-sensitive, customizable GUI that happily shares screen space with your other studio software, helping you fight control room clutter. Thanks to this design innovation, talent that use Ruby produce smoother shows with less errors. Controls that are used the most fall naturally to hand, while functions that rarely need adjustment are easily controlled with just a couple of clicks in the context-sensitive GUI. And Ruby has cool features you won't find on other boards, like Auto Mix, an intelligent gain writing function that guarantees the perfect mix for multi-mic morning shows and call-in segments. Dual-mode snapshots that instantly switch the motorized faders between on-air and production modes, and enough DSP and I/O options to make even your pro sound pals green with envy. And because quality is as important to Lawo as it is to you, every console is proudly built to fanatically precise standards at Lawo's own factory in Germany. If you're ready to declutter your control room, do yourself a favor. Check out the new Ruby and the other cool Lawo radio tech at www.lawo.com/TWiRT.
I want to thank Lawo for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And hey, if this technology looks good to you, go check them out at lawo.com. And if you put the /TWiRT on there, that does two things. First of all, it takes you right to the radio products page, because they do a lot of other products too. So, and then it'll also let them know that we sent you and that you're a listener or viewer of This Week in Radio Tech.
Chris Tobin here with Bob Tarsio from Broadcast Devices Incorporated. As you can see in front of me, the rack of various products he has, they're all 1RU. Very effective, very efficient, and total cost of ownership is much better than you think. I'll let Bob describe further.
Well, the big story this year is SNMP. Everything you see here is SNMP capable, and we have the DPS 100D power meter series, our SWP 300 site controller, which interfaces with our power meters, and all motorized switches on the market, built in, single rack unit. Of course, this is our SWP 206 digital. This is also a site monitor, but it's designed for master antenna systems, specifically an antenna monitor protection system. Then we have our AES 400 series. It's here this year because it's now supporting multiplex over AES. Processor companies are doing digital composite FM stereo, and this is a product that supports the switching and distribution of that product, those product lines. Our GPM 300, it's our standard router, 8x8 router. Again, SNMP capable. All of these products can be interfaced to modern remote controls to support SNMP, or can be used standalone with the BDI stack GUI, which you see right here. Last on the list, but not least, is our new product, is our PASS 200 passive 16-channel switcher, which supports up to 16 channels, and they can be programmed in groups, stereo pairs, multiple pairs, and all SNMP controlled. There's a remote GUI for it, and also can be interfaced to modern remote control systems.
Very nice. Well, what caught my attention yesterday was the site controller and the screen and what I can do with it. So I'm thinking I'm a small market or medium market station. I don't need to invest.
That's exactly what this product is designed for. You don't need the horsepower of the big guys. This is a site controller that will manage 2 transmitters, up to 2 motorized switches, has 16 control outputs, 8 status inputs, and 4 analog inputs, and it has its own graphical user interface. So you don't have to have another piece of software to run this. Of course, you can interface it to a bigger system. If you have a larger remote control system, you need to monitor this from a remote location, you can do that thanks to SNMP.
SNMP is the key word this show. Now the other device here, which is for the master antennas.
Master antenna projects. Matter of fact, we delivered 3 of these to the Empire State Building about a year and a half ago, and that's supporting the monitor and protection system for the FM stations, all 19 FM stations at the Empire State Building. So this is a very important product, and this product has been around for a long time. Actually, we've been building and selling these for about a decade now, so we're no newcomer to this.
So for those watching and listening, the engineering part of it we all get. That's a very straightforward science and math, so to speak. But what about when we try to sell the idea to the managers? What's the ROI, total cost, that kind of thing?
The absolute most cost-effective solution for the technology that's available. This is about $3,000. Okay, this will contain an entire site. You can control an entire site with this. Add a power meter, and you've got a cost-effective solution with active power management. This is probably in terms of a cost benefit, the power meter probably has saved more antenna systems and transmission systems from damage over the years because of our built-in three-strike reflectometer. So every one of our power meters has that. A lot of people look at this and they say, well, it measures forward and reflected power. It doesn't only do that, it also protects your system from damage. There's an external temperature sensor and pressure sensor also as part of the package. 6 general purpose inputs. So that this is a complete monitoring system in an inline system. And it's not just your, it's not your father's power meter anymore. This is a much better product, and it's also SNMP capable. Always has been from day one.
I can say I have the earlier version of this at my site, and I do use it for the pressure, but I also recently wired up a sample for the forward into my remote control. So if I go off the air and I don't get an alert that there's no RF, then I know it's something else. So it's actually been very handy.
Now, that legacy system had DC outputs to connect to your remote control. You don't have to do that anymore. Everything is right here in the Cat5 cable. All of the data from this unit is available to your remote control system right through one Cat5 cable. We still have the DC outputs for legacy remote control, so if you still need a DC sample for your forward and reflective power, it's available on the connector on top of the unit. So we've got that covered as well.
Excellent. So from what I've seen here, basically I have everything I need for a radio station, small station, even a group station, depending on the size. But I guess site control I love. This thing I think is great. This makes total sense. And the GUI that you have, the graphics it's very straightforward. It's perfect. And then if you have multiple stations at a site, this is handy as well. I could see that. Knowing from my personal experience, again, I'm not endorsing per se, but just I've used it. It works. I've been very happy. And then the rest. And then this is even funnier that AES now, for years nobody really did anything with AES. Now it's all of a sudden.
Broadcasters always worried up to maybe 48 kilohertz sample rate. Now at 192 kilohertz sample rate, it's a different animal entirely. So cabling, all that stuff's very important, and so we paid attention to that. So this product now is available in 110 ohm and 75 ohm interfaces. And by the way, we recommend 75 ohm interfaces for anything north of 96 kilohertz. So if you're doing multiplex over AES, use the transformer at the source and the termination, but use 75 ohms in between. All you have to do is order the 75 ohm version, which is available on all 4 of the versions of this product line that we offer.
Excellent. And you did give me a copy of the SBE Tampa paper you did on this concept, and it was very informative, and I understood exactly what you meant by the graphs and 75 and 110 ohms, so it makes sense. I appreciate it. So Bob Tarsio with Broadcast Device Incorporated, BDI as we all know, is Broadcast General Store product, and you can come on down and get it by just calling, going online, or if you're here at NAB, even better. But if not, just go online. Bob, again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Any closing words?
Well, hey, come by and see us if you're here at the show. If not, visit www.broadcast-devices.com. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you again.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show, This Week in Radio Tech, done from the NAB show in Las Vegas, NAB 2019. Chris, have you gotten to see all the booths here?
Not all of them, but most of them.
Really?
The ones I need to see.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I've seen about 6 booths altogether.
No, I've seen more than that, but it's an information overload, but it's a great show. And this year I did notice a lot more technology than usual.
Yeah. You know, my employer, Telos, had brought out several new products, some of them involving new technologies, And so we've seen that at a lot of places.
Yeah, and some of the newest stuff I witnessed, it was pretty cool, is the Altiros product, the 6.5 gig wireless mic, which uses TDMA technology. So right away that perked my interest. I'm like, wait a minute, TDMA? What are we talking? What? That's a cell phone.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool product. I believe they'll be doing some demonstrations in New York City later this month or next month. So if they are, I will try and get some video and we'll get a look-see.
Is the benefit of TDMA that they can use the same frequency?
Yeah. It's an ultra-wideband, 6 gig frequency, 24 channels of audio.
Okay.
So you put up what it looks like an antenna is actually a square little box with an antenna. Okay. It's a transceiver. So you build like a small mesh network, and you just, as long as you walk within it, it's pretty cool.
But you know, most wireless mics, you got a lot of different frequencies going on. But TDMA, it's one frequency with time slots.
Right. That's right. Okay. The time domain multiplexing multiplex access. Yeah.
So do you have a tip for us this week?
Tip of the week.
You can take mine if you want.
No, I couldn't do that. Just remember, this time of year, for many of you, the weather's changing. Check on your sites. Check the simple stuff like air conditioner filters. Also, I was at the Public Radio Engineering Conference. There was talk about preparing for disasters or being prepared. Make sure your generator's checked out. And I don't mean just looking good. Turn it on. Make sure the battery functions. Then if you find that it's functioning, do it on the load test. Do at least a load test once a month or at least once a quarter to make sure that it works. Those of you who don't know, the permanent magnets in the generator generator do start to go a little wonky if you don't exercise them. And if you don't believe me, contact Jeff Welt and ask him about his generator situation this past spring. That's all I'm going to say.
So my tip of the week is wear comfortable shoes, and I had to buy some sneakers. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I got 2 pairs of dress shoes, and they each have different pressure points on your feet. So alternate days, and that actually does help instead of wearing the same ones over and over. Now, you want to hear what happened to my sneakers?
What happened to your sneakers?
Well, I forgot to pack my sneakers on the way here, so I had to go to a store here in Las Vegas and buy some. And Chris, I don't know what they were laced with, but I was tripping all day. All right, I'm going to keep my day job, folks.
Thank goodness we're in Vegas.
Thanks a lot to Suncast for running all these video clips together in the right order. I appreciate that. I assume you did. And thanks also to Andrew Zarian, the founder of the GFQ Network. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.
Bye now.